Let's bring in William Lawrence, former US diplomat, professor of political science and international affairs at the American University. You're some way away from the actual conversations going on. I appreciate that, Professor. But look, we're in a bit of a mess here. It just looks like this special meeting on Thursday of ECOWAS may not happen at all.
Yes, and that's really the next big move here if they do meet. And ECOWAS may have overshot when it said it was ready to make military action in Niger, and only one of the fellow members of ECOWAS said they'd sign up with Nigeria for that military intervention. Usually, military intervention has to be framed as a last resort, not a first resort. But there are a number of dynamics that, even though the chances of reversing the coup are relatively slim, there are a couple of details that are interesting. First of all, the presidential bodyguards are refusing to let the presidential guard in. And so right there at the presidential residence, you have opposing armed forces that aren't cooperating with each other. There are elements of the Niger military that are in the background trying to avoid conflict, but not necessarily fully supporting the coup. And the coup isn't that popular in Niger, although people are afraid to protest it. There's a particular political grouping and some others who are very pro-Russian and supporting the coup, but most people in Niger are just mad that electricity is being cut off coming from Nigeria, and the economic sanctions that are coming and cuts in aid, which represent 40% of the budget of Niger, will be devastating for the population. So we need some leadership here. I'm not sure ECOWAS will be able to pull it off on its own, but the doors aren't closed yet to some sort of reversal.
And to those other global influences like America, like the United Nations, like the European Union, I mean, they're all saying some fine words about let's sort this out, but can they really do anything?
Well, the old days of intervening militarily from the global powers are pretty much over. There are exceptions over the last 30, 40 years, but that's the exception, not the rule. So here we're looking for the regional economic grouping, ECOWAS, to act as the policeman, to play the role that maybe in the Cold War would have been French or British or American forces. But there's other levers and there's other mechanisms here, in our 21st century. And one is Niger is desperately poor and depends on its international relationships. And I'm not sure that weakened Burkina and weakened Mali that actually have more violence, even though the military juntas came into power pledging that they would, lessen the violence. It's actually increased. And Wagner Group is a shadow of its former self. And even after the failed coup in Russia, it's trying to reconstitute itself in Belarus. Its African operations are weaker than before. So these coup leaders that may have been egged on from the outside, but really did this for internal reasons that had to do with their own job security and grievances, let's say workplace grievances, there's still a chance here they may come to their senses and reverse course. Again, it's not the higher likelihood, but every day matters now and pressure matters. And Niger is a desperately poor country that needs international support.
Well, let me focus on that. You say about a poor country. It needs dollars. It needs any currency it can get hold of right now, doesn't it? It's already apparently missed one set of bond repayments that were scheduled to take place today. So these coup leaders are going to find themselves, to put it crudely, short of cash.
Absolutely. And short of energy, short of water, short of food, short of 40% of their budget. I mean, they're going to be short of everything, and they're going to make promises. And there's an appetite in Niger to go with new leaders because the old leaders, weren't fully delivering. But I'd say, based on my source on the ground, there's apprehension more than anything else. And all paths look like the lesser of two or three or four evils. And, if we could come with a negotiated solution, don't forget, it doesn't have to be simply, let the president take over power again. First of all, they're trying to save the life of the president without bloodshed. And so, he could be sent to a different location or be part of a negotiation. The former president was involved. Chad was involved, and others in trying to have a mediated solution, which may not include Bazoum. It may include a transitional period back to civilian rule. a technocratic government coming in for some period. So there are a lot of ways to skin a cat here, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the junta in Niger has to go the route of Mali or Burkina Faso.
Professor William Lawrence in Washington, D.C., thank you very much.